試咪1 2 3 4 5 6 7 testing testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7試咪1 2 3 4 5 6 7 testing testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7試咪1 2 3 4 5 6 7試咪1 2 3 4 5 6 7 testing testing 1 2 3 4 5 6 7
？Sorry.
Now we begin our meeting, the open section. We first want to welcome Margaret Chiu and her team to join our open section. There are 3 members of our team who cannot be present, including Dr. Yu Yoklun, Ms. Hui Ming Ming, and Mr. Chan. Before our meeting begins, I would like to invite you all to stand in silence to express our mourning towards those who were seized from the Type 5. I'm Mr. Yu Tatming. Now, I would like to invite all staff, especially friends of media, to turn your device into silent mode in order to show our mourn to the deceased from the fire from Wangfu Court in Taipo. We would stand in silence for 1 minute and we will now begin.
Please
be seated. We will now begin our joint meeting. The first item on the agenda is to confirm the minutes of our meeting held on September the 16th. Minutes have already been circulated and we have not received any proposed amendments. If there are no further proposed amendments, shall we confirm the minutes? Item 2 is a presentation on crime scene investigation mobile lab. May I now invite the police to report? Thank you. In order to enhance the police to enable the police to take fingerprint identification and collection of evidence, after 5 years of preparation and testing, we launched in October, the crime scene investigation mobile lab. The CSI mobile lab focuses on major crime like murder, kidnapping and involve fingerprint identification. This lab contains facilities for fingerprint identification. The launch of the lab marks the ability of the police and a major progress in the collection of evidence at crime scenes. It enhanced the professional capability of our colleagues and also provide better assistance for our officers to conduct investigation more effectively. In order to brief you further on this lab, I will invite my colleagues to further elaborate. Thank you, Billy. I am Superintendent Mac So San. Today, I'd like to brief members about our mobile lab. Before we begin, I'd like to brief you on the work of the Identification Bureau. First of all, our work is divided into 4 domains. First of all, identification of fingerprints at the crime scene, and also matching that with those with criminal records. Next, forensic photography at the scene of crime. Thirdly, collection of DNA left behind by suspects. Samples will be taken to the government lab for identification, and also by comparing the sample with suspects. And finally, identification of firearms to confirm whether they are real firearms and whether bullets actually come from the barrel of the gun concerned. Regarding fingerprint identification, in 2024, we've handled 6,400 cases. The evidence we have inspected was more than 11,000, and we collected more than 10,000 pieces of evidence. After matching, we were able to identify 1,600 suspects. There are 2 ways to identify fingerprints, depending on the nature of the evidence concerned. If the surface is smooth, it's not just plastic or glass surface, we can actually scan the fingerprint freshly left behind at the scene. A simple officer using a simple tool will be able to identify the fingerprints in an hour. For those fingerprints which have sunk into the evidence like paper, I believe that if the fingerprint has been left on the evidence for a long time, the evidence will be taken to the lab for inspection. And the video you will look at now is our lab. After years of upgrade, the new lab was commissioned in 2023. Compared with before, we are now 20 times larger. The lab is built to cope with the new workload. We've also have additional staff and equipments to ensure that we'll be able to identify more fingerprints and to provide support for our investigation colleagues. We've been introducing the latest technologies and equipments to enhance our efficiency. For the crime scene investigation lab, this is one of the latest upgrade. The mobile lab was, well, we were planning for the lab in 2019. We spent $1.4 million, including the cost of vehicles and the retrofitting, including the equipment. The lab was officially launched in 2024. It is actually retrofitted from a medium-sized van, which has the marking, crime scene investigation. The van is 7 meters wide and 3 meters tall. The chassis has been retrofitted with sufficient illumination and space for accommodating equipment, such a design will be able to enable us to conduct investigation in different locations. There are three purposes for launching this lab. First of all, to increase the mobility of our operations. In the past, we need to deploy a team to investigate the crime scene and decide on the equipment that we need. And then we will inform headquarters so that our colleagues can then, put the necessary equipment onto the van. Sometimes we even need to charter a van. And by the time we arrive at the scene, it will already it would take 4 hours. With this new equipment, we can actually place all the equipment we need onto the van, and we'll be able to arrive at the scene within an hour. Our second objective is to take the lab to the crime scene, and within the van, we can conduct instant chemical analysis. There are cupboards to hold evidence. Fingerprints collected can be sent to headquarters for identification so that we can, inform the officers at the scene about possible suspects. The advantage here is that if we have to pack up the evidence back to the headquarters, the fingerprints might have already been contaminated. So collecting the fingerprints at the scene would help us find the evidence more efficiently. Thirdly, to enable us to better manage the crime scene and to preserve the evidence. Our investigation very often takes place outdoors or even in rural areas. Take this case, for example. You'll find that the unit concern of the crime scene is located on the ground floor. Our equipment and the evidence we needed to examine have to be placed outside of the unit. If at this time, if we encounter bad weather, it would really, compromise our ability to control the crime scene.
咁嘅情況
Considering these circumstances, we have equipped this mobile lab with some better tools that fits for outdoor work, including strong lighting, generator, as well as the tents that help us to preserve our evidence as well as our identification work. Our frontline staff will call for our service when the following two criteria are met. First, there are severe crimes that required speedy fingerprint identification results, like kidnap case or murder case. We want to lock down on the identification of the suspect and start our procedures. Second, the crime scene requires some advanced technologies in order to collect evidence, including crime scene with blood. Through chemical methodologies or other forensic tools, we can take care of the crime scene with larger areas. In the last 1 year, the mobile lab has been deployed for over 20 cases. We are focusing on mainly the murder cases and other severe crimes. In the coming days, we will continue to enhance our capability in testing fingerprints and our efficiency in order to provide support to our frontline staff. This is my presentation today. Thank you very much. Thank you, SP Mike. Is there any colleagues who have questions or items for discussion? Mabel? Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you, SP Mr. Mike. I think the new equipments are excellent. It enhance our chance of chasing down some suspects. As you mentioned, I have questions about the fingerprints. We know that we have fingerprint record on the government database. That's what I believe. But when we're trying to identify a suspect, are you going to make use of the Hong Kong-wide database, or is there another database? From my understanding, I believe it's the latter. Another question. In case there are fingerprints that cannot be identified, maybe they are not Hong Kong locals. How are you going to take care of that? In general, if we have to identify a suspect, what is the fastest rate that you can offer? Are you going to respond to that? Yes, thank you. Thank you for your question. Responding to your first question, can we make use of the general residence fingerprint to compare with the fingerprints we collected from crime scene? First of all, because of ROP at the immigration department, the fingerprints that registered include only the 2 thumbs that we have. And the purpose of such collection is only for the registration of population. Therefore, it cannot be used for the purpose of detection of crimes. Such principle also applies to the application of IM-Smart's fingerprint. Those kind of fingerprints cannot be used for identification. The print that we collected is not just labbed from the thumbs, it might be other fingers, the palms, even from the foot. We will first collect fingerprints from the suspect that are under our custody. Such record will remain on our system until we clear the record or the suspect has been released and they do not have any previous criminal records. Then we will take his or her record outside of our database. These arrested suspects will have their fingerprints on our database and we can use it for comparisons. Another set is that there are criminals that have records on our database. According to the ordinance, we can compare it with what we collect. That is the source that we use for identification when comparing to the fingerprints we collected from the crime scenes. As for the outstanding prints, if we cannot locate him or her in the Hong Kong database, and if such crime is serious, then through the FBI, we can put it onto their upload so that they can do the code search. The Interpol will collect fingerprints of serious crime cases with their own database. If there is any match cases, they will report back to us. This is a mechanism that has been going on for years. Any other questions? Matthew, Mr. Lam. Thank you, Chair Lady. Thank you for your presentation. It is very clear. Today, you are talking about the mobile lab. At the moment, how many vehicles do you have in plans? How many experts will be on these vehicles? Is the police well prepared? I'm not sure how many vehicles you're going to launch. If there are a lot of cars, do you have sufficient support? Thank you, Chair Lady, and thank you for the question. At this moment, according to our plan, these vehicles will serve Hong Kong, and we will support all the law enforcement departments. As mentioned, there are 2 ways of investigating a crime scene. If the environment is not complicated, or if a special requirement, a special equipment is not required, then a staff member from the investigation bureau can already complete his or her job with some basic tools. Since Hong Kong is a very safe city, in the past year, we have deployed the vehicles for over 20 occasions. Actually, we are not talking about over 20 cases. We are just talking about over 20 scenes, and they comes from about a dozen of cases. When we look at the overall case figures as the mode of committing crimes, I believe that we have sufficient vehicles to accommodate the need. At the moment, we will have 1 sergeant and 3 PC to take care of the crime scene. I believe that it will be sufficient because in Hong Kong, well, sometimes when we are taking care of a subdivided unit or even a normal residential unit, this staff member will be sufficient to cover the whole area. And it also depends on the complexity of the environment. For serious cases, it may require more than 1 day. For simple cases, we only require 2 to 3 hours. As for staff member deployed, we will be deploying 5 to 6 staff on each occasion. If necessary, we have over 30 experts on fingerprints in the IB. Colleagues who can take care of the advanced forensic department, we also have over 10 members who can take care of such tasks. If there is a very complex crime scene which required a prolonged working period, I believe that we also have sufficient staff member to take care of that. Let me ask a question. Apart from crime investigation, I believe that these mobile labs also deployed for a forensic, like 2 weeks ago, and that fire required a lot of forensic effort. Well, without discussing individual cases, my question is, in overseas countries, in other developed countries, or in mainland China, do we see a lot of investigation vans? Yes, actually, they're quite common. They are mainly focusing on 1 to 2 collection of evidence services. They would not cover the whole spectrum. That would be very rare. As for ourselves, we only focus on a fingerprint investigation. Having said that, they also have equipment supporting outdoor work or even a long period of work in rural areas. Like the fire 2 weeks ago, we have also turned out the surface. There is no fingerprint correction required, but investigation bureau will also take photographs of the fire scene. We have set up a command post or a coordination center. From there, we will be coordinating with the photographers of IB, the fire service department, as well as the other investigation teams, because the environment there is far from ideal. We have set up 4 markets, that is our tents, and we have set up all the tables and lightings. Given the complexity of the scenes, sometimes we need to have a joint meeting first to decide on the priority of entering into the scenes. Therefore, setting up of a collaboration center can greatly facilitate our communications with other forensic departments. Our center is still at the scene. Out of curiosity, I have one more question. Speaking of crimes, we believe that it is fit for collection of fingerprint. How about labs? Sometimes we will be testing on gas, materials, airborne particles, or other microorganisms. Do you focus on those works as well? No, we do not. I believe that the expertise of these areas remain at the government laboratories. At SAD, for the scenes that have such high requirements, we will always collaborate with the government labs before we go in. Therefore, we are also supporting them. Thank you. see if we have any further questions. Dr. Desmond Yun. These vehicles certainly have special functions. How about location that is not accessible by vehicles? There are incidents on the sea, or if the scene was in certain rural areas, we deployed drones for forensic photography. There are locations with difficult terrains. Then we will deploy another optioning team from the police. Then together we will be able to collect fingerprints in those locations. Well, if you're talking about modes of transportation, I believe that we need to work with other departments, including the Marines Department. They will also offer us their support if necessary. Any further questions or issues for discussions? If not, then thank you, Billy.
咁我哋就
We now move on to the next item, matters for information. For item 3, I'd like to please report on 2 matters. First of all, the monthly statistics, and also the item 4 complaints. Thank you. I will now brief members regarding the latest trend regarding complaints. Regarding the number of complaints, from the left to the right, we have numbers from for January to November 2023 through to 25. In 2025, we've have 2,247 reportable complaints compared with 2,204 last year. It's up 143 or 6%. The major increase is because of complaints against uniform officers, and also complaints there was drop regarding traffic complaints. There are 3 majors of complaints. For example, impolite behavior, not taking appropriate action, and also I think of the complaints received in 2025, 97% of them were rather minor in nature. Let's now take a look at the numbers for as you can see, starting from the left, the first 3 types of complaints, minor complaints including negligence, improper behavior, impolite language, and foul language. And they made up the majority of the complaints, roughly about 95%. For serious complaints, 5%. For the first 11 months for the year 2025, the number has dropped compared with 2023 and 24. Now, this is a slide which shows the result of the investigation endorsed by the IPCC. There were 2,400 odd cases, 46%. The yellow part were not able to be followed up, and we have 33%, the dark blue area. Such complaints have been withdrawn. The gray area, which are complaints dealt with in a summary manner, 11%. The remaining 10%, the green, the orange, and the red portion, have 1.6% or 39 cases have been substantiated. So those are the trend regarding complaints against the police. Kevin, a short one, Madam Chair. For those cases which cannot be followed up, what were the major reasons? Actually, the numbers have been rather stable in the past. When we receive complaints, we will always do our best to follow up and and also, contact the complainant either by email, if there is an email from the complainant, and we'll try our best to contact the complainant. We've also resorted to mail. Very often we found that there have been difficulties when we try to contact this complainant. Sometimes when we call them, they do not return our call. That's why we cannot start our investigation. After we have received complaints, we will tell the complainant that in the course of our investigation, we need to ask for further information from them so that we can have have a full investigation. But very often we do not get any further response, and because of that, we've not been able to follow up further. Thank you. How many percent would such cases make up? 90 something percent? Yes. When we try to contact the complainant, we don't just do it once. We will call them several times. We will try to contact them by email or by post. So after we tried our best, and we've not still been able to contact them. I also like to complain for the pie chart, the not pursuable cases, the yellow part, it's 46% not pursuable. Now, the background here is that we are a civil society. For any complaints against police officers, it is actually a civil right. But what there is a responsibility which comes with this right, and that is if you want to make a complaint, if you don't provide details, if there's no evidence, then it will be very difficult for the police to pursue such complaints. So for those people who lodge complaints, please provide the police with the names and means of contact. Everyone in Hong Kong should have an address and a cell phone, especially since 2020, everyone should have a cell phone since COVID. And many people have email addresses so that they can provide, contact. So we would like to tell the public that when you make complaints against the police, please also provide the means of contact. In the past, there have been many cases which were not pursuable because of the lack of contact. In the past, the police would try to call them many times, and the matter would have already been, forgotten. Sometimes people would lodge a complaint in haste, and afterwards, I think after we've opened a file, we will deal with these complaints seriously, and I would expect CAPO to do that seriously. But please provide effective means of contact, and also please provide authentic evidence and information so that with the evidence and the facts, we would be able to pursue such complaints. So complaint is a civil right, but the complainant also have the obligation to provide the evidence and the contact. If there's any further supplement, if not, let's move on to part B. Part B is actually the criminal and disciplinary checklist. We don't have anything further to supplement. Any questions regarding part B? Okay, if not, I think we finish our deliberation in this part, and we have no AOB today. Date of our next meeting is the 17th of March next year, a Tuesday. This is our last meeting for the year. Let me wish everyone the best of health. Thank you.
大家好，
Hello, everyone. Dear friends of media. Today, I would like to review with you the work of IPCC from the year of 2024 to 2025. The cover of the report this year is very meaningful. The concept comes from the first ever report cover design competition from the junior secondary category. This is the champion. We have both the junior secondary and senior secondary category. The committee, that is PCC, have organized an adjudicating committee. When we look through each case, we are very diligent in adjudicating it, just like when we review each case. We are so glad to see the exceptional standard of the students' work, reflecting the core value of IPCC as well as the criteria of our reviewing. Given the excellence of each submission, they all comes from unique styles. Some are in a comic style, some are very realistic, some even make use of the computer designing skills. We have a hard time adjudicating. After rounds of discussion, we are able to make our choice. From the two categories, the adjudicators have selected a student Chung from junior secondary category. We have made use of the original elements from his work in the design of our cover here. That is what you can see on my hand. Personally, I really appreciate student Chung. As you can see inside the eyeballs, there are different characters. The message of IPCC as well as the core values are being clearly conveyed: to be independent, to be impartial, and to have integrity. The cover has shown that we were based on evidence and facts and to operate under bright daylight. That is how we will straightly review all the cases we received. The design of student Chung is full of meaning and creativity, and it truly shows we will impartially take care of each complaint case and seek justice for those who are being complained as well as the complaint. Now I would give you the major figures of our report. In 2024 to 2025, we have a total of 1,790 reportable complaint cases endorsed. It involved 2,530 allegations. That has been a 9% of increase per annum. We're talking about the number of cases here. The nature of allegations covered: criminal cases, traffic offenses, etc. So the level has been similar from the previous year. Over 93% are minor allegations, including neglect of duty and improper attitude. The 7% are serious, including the abuse of the authority as well as assault. CPP Mr. Chen Cheng-Yan will give you other figures from our report. When reviewing each and every case, IPCC will execute its statutory duty in order to find rooms for improvement in the practices and procedures. We will also submit our recommendations on SQIIs, that is Service Quality Improvement Initiatives, in order to reduce unnecessary complaints. During the period of the report, IPCC has submitted 19 SQIIs, including optimizing the recollection of collecting unfound property, improving the return of exhibits to those who are imprisoned, as well as standardizing the voice messaging system. Another SQII concerns the use of technology during law enforcement. We suggest that the officers should have a clear photo taking when forming a traffic offenses to reduce dispute. Later on, Mr. Daniel Mui will give you further details that are being covered in this report. I myself with other committee member of IPCC, values our visits of different regions as well as departments in order to have a better understanding of their daily work. We also want to understand their daily challenges because it will help members of IPCC to review the complaint received and to follow up the implementation of the recommendations being made. Last year, at the night of Halloween, we visited Lan Kwai Fong. From the perspective of the public, we observed how the police managed crowd flow and to secure public safety. Early this year, we also worked together with the emergency unit Kowloon West. From the frontline operators, we also want to see how can we conduct the daily patrolling and to chase different suspects. We also visited the Academy of Police. Through simulated scenarios, we understand how the trainers covered all the SQIIs proposed by IPCC, including recommending officers to make good use of the cameras in taking care of the disputes. When they are taking care of traffic conspiracies, they also need to take clear photos as proof. Members and I myself also visited the special custody rooms in Mongkok police areas so that we can ensure that all the needs of those in custody are being met. In the future, we will visit even more different policing regions to deepen our understanding of frontline police officers as well as the challenges they faced. In recent years, one of the highlights of IPCC is to strengthen the general public, especially the young people's understanding of our work. We noticed that there are a number of not pursuable cases. We have 942 cases, which takes up 37% of the total allegations. The majority of them caused by the non-cooperative attitude of the complainants. Therefore, the IPCC are not able to pursue the case any further. We regard this as a waste of resources. Therefore, we continue to fulfill our statutory duties to explain to the general public that filing a complaint is something serious. As they exercise the rights of filing a complaint, they also have to cooperate and fulfill their duty of taking care of the complaint so that together we will uphold the impartiality of the work of IPCC. I wish you all every success. I want to pass to PCC Chairman Dr. Daniel Chen. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to share with our friends from the media the complaint figures for 2024 to 2025. In 2024 to 2025, we received a total of 171,783 reportable complaint cases, which is 10% up from those of last year. The IPCC also endorsed 1,790 reportable complaint cases, again up 10% compared with last year. 2,530 cases of the 1,790 complaints, there were 2,530 allegations, which is up 9% compared with last year. Regarding the allegations endorsed this year, 2,530 in total. Minor allegations made up 93%, of which there were 1,249 cases regarding neglect of duty, or 49%. Next, we have misconduct behavior, 1,114 such cases, or 44%. For serious complaints like assault, unnecessary use of authority, they made up less than 10%. We have 1,017. Of the 2,530 allegations endorsed, 309 required full investigation. 2,221 allegation did not require full investigation, which includes withdrawal of complaints, untraceable, complaints or complaints dealt with in a summary manner. Regarding investigation results, complaints substantiated, there were 38 cases, substantiated other than reported 30. So total number of substantiated cases were 68 in total, and they made up 22% of the total number of 139 complaints. I refer to the 68 substantial complaints. 69 were minor in nature, such as neglect of duty or minor misdemeanor. There were 15 false complaints or allegations. The number of withdrawn and non-pursuable complaints were 1,045 and 942 respectively. The chairman already said that for most of the non-pursuable cases, it was because the complainants, after lodging complaint, their complaints did not, follow up, which as a result, CAPO would not be able to carry out investigation. For a small number of cases, the complainant could not identify, give us the identity of the subject of complaint. So there were complaints where the complainant did not cooperate with CAPO, and also complainants not able to identify or to give us the identity of the subject of complaint. We've always we must insist that complainant must cooperate with CAPO. They must provide detailed and accurate information. Going forward, we will continue to step up our publicity so that the public will understand that complainants have the duty and has the right and the duty when they make a complaint. For the year, 68 police officers were subject to disciplinary action, including disciplinary review, warnings, and advice. During the complaint period, we lodged 884 queries with CAPO, of which 74 after our referral, 74 or 14 were reclassified as substantiated. Or for cases, they were either proven unsubstantiated. Regarding number of observation sessions and attendance rate of IPCC observers, the total number was 1,730, which is 98%. I'd like to thank our observers for observing the principle of neutrality and impartiality, helping the IPCC to play a role, a monitoring role, and enhancing the confidence of the public as well as the confidence in the IPCC. During the reporting period, we made 19 suggestions for improvements to the police of the SQIs. They have become a major focus of our publicity. During the reporting period, we participated in more than 40 activities. We were in contact with 11,000 members of the public and representatives from the police and the media. Other than the role of the IPCC, Other than the work of the IPCC, we have also focused on our SQIs so that the public will understand how the SQIs can help the police improve the service quality. Now, I'd like to ask the Secretary General to brief you or some of the SQIs that we put forward to the police. Thank you. The chairman already told you about our work. A major area of our work is how, amongst the complaints received, how the police can improve the service quality so that we can minimize the number of complaints. SQII in short. Since Madam Wong became our chair, this has been a major focus of our work. Since 2009, we have made 260 SQIs, most of which were made in the last few years. This year, we made 19 SQIs. In our report for the year, we've highlighted 4 SQIs for your attention. For the other 14, if you go to page 64, 65 of the report, you'll find the details there. The first SQII is about fixed penalty tickets. The officer issued the ticket will take a photo of the offending vehicle. Now, there have been a case which involved a handicapped person. He had parked his car in a metered parking space, and he did not actually, pay for parking. But since he's a disabled person, he was not required to pay for the meter, so he lodged a complaint. So CAPO reviewed the record and reviewed the photo taken. We found from the photo that we're not able to clearly see that the complainant had placed the label to identify him as a disabled person in the car. The frontline officer who was being complained against insisted he could not see such a label. Now, if a photo had been taken, I think we asked whether the officer could have taken a clearer photo. After talking to CAPO, we decided that the photos should be taken in a proper format, and the officer must be able to take a photo to prove that the vehicle concerned has contravened the relevant rules, whether the vehicle license is properly displayed and so on. So after the complaint, the SQI we suggested is that we should provide training to the frontline staff to advise how they should take the photos. On the internet, they've also shown officers how they should take such photos, so the frontline officers would know this is how they should take such photos, so that on the police internet they can see how they should take such photos, because officers nowadays are equipped with a cell phone when they're on duty. Other than the SQIIs, we would also go to different police districts to see how these SQIIs are implemented and get feedbacks from the frontline officers and see how we can make further improvements. The chair lady also said that we've actually gone to the police academy to watch the training. We were glad to see that the SQII have already been incorporated in the training manual. For cadets who are being trained now, they know very clearly how they would take the photos when they're issuing traffic tickets.
因為點解咧？
The second recommendation is closely related to citizens because every now and then citizens would secure some found property. In those cases, citizens would take it to the police station. According to the procedures, if a found property remains unclaimed after 3 months, the finder is entitled to indicate that he would accept the property if it is being unclaimed. When the finder take the found property to the police should ask him or her if they're going to collect it. There is a form for them to fill in. They have to indicate their intention there. In a certain case, the complainant handed a found property to a police station and indicated that they would accept the property. After 4 months, the complainant called the property office to inquire about the property, but the officer said that the found property has to be taken care of. It shall not be returned to you. And the complainant said it is not true because I have indicated on the receipt. When the staff member look at the documents, he know that he has neglect those documents, and it is a case of neglect of duty. More importantly, we believe that we have to look into how can we prevent it from occurring again. Therefore, we review the procedures. In the procedures, whenever there are properties that shall be destroyed, then the staff member will send it to the supervisors. Upon signature, it will be sent. We discover that in the procedure, it has not been indicated how the property shall be handled, although there is such common practice. Perhaps this is an area that needs improvement. We believe that it should be explicitly indicated. First of all, officers should call the finder and they have to review the form. And then the found property can be handed to the supervisor. Procedures should require a third party of a higher rank to verify the integrity of all procedures before it can be destroyed. Couple has accepted our recommendations. They have to include the district commander or a officer of the rank higher than sergeant to verify that it shall not be returned to the finder and that it can be handed to destroy or shall be returned to the treasury if it is cash. The third SQII also concerns property. In some cases, especially crime cases, the investigation team would collect certain exhibits. Upon the closing of case, the court would rule on the handling of such exhibits. A lot of the exhibits shall be returned to the persons involved in the case. There are two areas that are problematic. Generally speaking, upon the court ruling, within a period of 6 weeks, the IC of the case would stipulate the return of property to the owner. Within 3 months of the issue of instruction, it shall be returned. However, we receive complaints saying that, let's say, it's a mobile phone. There are complainants saying that they have failed to receive their mobile phone. There are two scenarios. First, when the property office staff try to contact the owner, their efforts was to no avail. In that case, the property office needs to record how and when he or she tried to contact the owner. When he fails, how shall he follow up? After speaking with couple, we believe that it should be clearly stipulated. In case of no contact, first of all, it has to be recorded the date and how it has been contacted. 3 months later, it should be reported back to the person in charge of the case so that the officer in charge can make the decisions. Another scenario is that the owner are being sentenced for imprisonment. while the frontline staff would still attempt to contact that person, but it has to be returned to the Correctional Services Department, and they have to make an appointment through the e-booking services for official visit, and it is quite difficult for them to make an appointment. They have to keep submitting requests. I believe this is far from ideal. Well, there should be actions taken to take care of this problem. After speaking with couple, perhaps we need to make some special arrangement with CSD. Let's say it cannot be returned within 3 months. Shall we make a special arrangement with the CSD for a special appointment so that we can go into the prison and return the property to him or her? Or we should consider going through a CSD so that the person in custody can authorize friends or members of family to collect that property on his behalf. We have been in communications with couple. They believe that these suggested procedures can be included in the guideline in order to reduce unnecessary complaints. The last one is rather interesting. If you have been in touch with the police, you will always ask, in case of inquiries, how can I reach out to you? Or if you receive a certain letter about a case in investigation, if necessary, you can call the following number here and you will be able to contact us. This is a complaint case. The complainant called the police and no one picked up. There is a voice message system, so he left a message there with his phone number, but the call was never returned because the complainant has already left a contact number there. Upon receiving this complaint, we interviewed the police officers that are being complained, and they said to couple, "Are there any voice messages?" I think there is none. If there is a voice message for me, I would receive it through email on my computer. You can look at my email box. There is no notifications regarding any voice message. Later on, we discovered that within the police force, there are 2 separate systems. One is more advanced. When you leave a voice message, it will automatically save those voice messages. If you receive it through email, then you will be able to listen to the voice message on your computer. Everything will be recorded on the computer system. But there is a second system that's rather old-fashioned. There will be an indicator light on the telephone. If you need to listen to the voice message, you have to access it on the telephone. As said, it is rather old-fashioned. Turns out that the police officers that are being complained was unaware of this second system. Actually, there are quite a number of police officers that are not aware of the 2 systems. Perhaps they have only become a police officers for 5 years and they have been relying on the computer system all along. Upon discussing with couple, perhaps it's time for us to standardize the voice message system to prevent unnecessary complaints. Nowadays, we have very advanced telecommunications technology. If you leave a member of the public with your contact number, they're certainly going to call you. I trust that the police force shall review about the system and to consider standardizing it. Second, we see electronifications on many things, including the found property that are being sent to the police. There is a form called 68D to indicate whether or not you're going to collect it after 3 months. I believe that it should be a e-form so that the computer system will automatically remind you of the next steps. We trust that this is the major direction and couple have accepted our recommendations. Hopefully, it will help reducing some unnecessary complaints. if we can improve in these areas, then number of complaints can be decreased. That's all from me today. If you are interested, you may refer to page 58 to 63. You can find all these 4 cases from page 64 onwards are other cases.
Sorry, you need to. I'm from commercial radio. There have been coroner court ruling. Taxi driver was suffocated by a police officer, causing his death. So will the IPCC revive a criminal investigation following the recommendation of the jury and install, for example, video and recording device in the police van? And also, secondly, has the IPCC received any complaints regarding the national security law? There have been persons who have been charged but not yet been tried. Do you think that the police arrest did not have any legal basis in that particular case? Will you take the initiative to look into that case? Let me answer your second question. The first one involved an individual case, which I will not comment. Now, regarding your second question, for cases involving the national security law, whenever you have any complaints against the police, which CAP will consider reportable, IPCC will be in the second tier of the complaint mechanism. There are 2 tiers. The IPCC will deal with that. I'll ask the Secretary General to answer the first question. The case you referred to, we've been closely monitoring that case, but since it is now being dealt with in the court at the moment, so we'll not make any comment yet until the case has been tried and concluded in court. So I don't think it's convenient for us to make any comment. Regarding your last question regarding the police, that is not within our terms of reference. This is a decision for the police and the ICAC. Any further questions? We note that the number of complaints last year was up 10%. 7% were serious in nature. Do you think that is satisfactory? We've seen that there have been serious allegations like fabrication of evidence. What sort of evidence are they in general? And what is the recommendation of the IPCC in this regard? Now, regarding we have many or too few of such cases, that is a frequently asked question. In the past, number of cases kept falling and people say they're worried that the cases are dropping. But now that cases are increasing since COVID and people are asking why, at the moment, I think you understand we went through 3 years of COVID. And I said then that there were very few social movements. Kids were not going to school. And there had been occasions where even the banks were closed and everybody had to stay at home. So if there are not much activities, there would be very few incidents which would give rise to complaints. Very often it would involve traffic cases or disputes. Basically, there were few activities and therefore, and hence fewer complaints. We asked why there were such few complaints. People say, is it because people don't trust the IPCC? I said, no, it was because there were few activities, there were few conflicts. And you cannot simply complain out of thin air. So I said that after COVID, the numbers would go up because when more people go out, then you will be more complaints. Now that COVID is over, we have more activities and now more complaints compared with before, and that is normal. The Secretary General also just reminded me that cases and allegations are two separate things. There have been many cases. If something happened, people would ask why this happened, and then there are complaints. And I think complaints are more accurate than allegations. And secondly, 40% of the complaints or allegations are not pursuable. And non-pursuable cases were also included, and they were not very clear cases. They're not pursuable. This is because the complainant did not give us their name or leave any contact. Again, I like to appeal to the public. I've done this many times already, that if you want to complain against the police, that is your right. But please also tell us your name and means of contact. Basically, everyone now has a cell phone. You don't have to wait for someone to call you. You can simply leave a message so that even people will work at different hours. So long as so you need the cell phone so that people can contact you. You can also provide email contact when CAPO approach the complainant many times. If they cannot contact such a person, then the case would become not pursuable. There are more than 40% of such cases. Some people will say that now that they have a better understanding of the case turned out to be an unnecessary misunderstanding. So this becomes, therefore, an unnecessary complaint. For example, why is it that there are two messaging systems in the police? And the police officer in this case involved half the message, and he thought that that's the message received from one system, but the Secretary General told him that there have been messages which were stored in a different system. So they didn't know that even with the email message, there had been another message. So even those cases were included in the number of complaints. If you just count the allegation, the number has dropped. But when you talk about trends, when we talk about economic data, we talk about 10-year trend, the GDP and so on, rather than year on year or weekly, comparisons, because that would not be accurate. If you adopt this method, including non-pursuable cases, it's up 9%. If you count allegations, the number has not gone up. You cannot read too much into this because a few percentage point up and down is not really that significant. I think the chair has already given you a broad answer. I'll give you more details. If you go to page 43 of your annual report, you may turn to page 43. You'll find the answer there. On page 43, starting from the right-hand side, for 2024-2025, total number allegations 2,530. 2023-24, 2,318. Number seems to have increased. But looking down for cases which require full investigation, 309, 316. So the actual number of cases requiring full investigation, the number is down. We're at 309 only. So the 2,530, if you go to the bottom of that page, like the chair said, you have 1,445 withdrawn cases, which is more than 925 that of last year. Non-pursuable, 942, compared with 746 last year. So the actual number of cases which warrant investigation, there were only 309. Before our meeting today, I've already asked my colleagues to find out whether there have been any complaints which we think, which you see that it has a rising trend. During the joint meeting, our senior superintendent already said that the number of complaints which have gone up usually involve, public's contact with frontline officers and so on. Well, these are only allegations, but eventually, how many of these complaints have been substantiated? For example, 2,500 odd was more than 200 of last year. But for most of these cases, you'll find that after the police have complained to them, many of them have withdrawn the complaint. There were 900 odd such cases which are not pursuable. You asked, there were a few percentage of serious allegations. If you go to page 41, you'll find that for assault, 106 allegations, there were only 90 last year. But I've asked our colleagues to look at all these complaints, or in most cases, they were complainants involved in court cases. They alleged in court that the police officers had assaulted them, or there have been cases of fabrication of evidence. The person said that the police fabricated the allegations, but none of these cases have been substantiated. In some cases, the court had ruled that the person was actually lying, making a false allegation, or there had been no fault on the part of the police. So people can make use of the procedure to make such allegations to absolve themselves when they are tried in court. So we can see that when we look at the numbers.
On page 41 and 43, as Secretary General mentioned, 2,530. If we compare last year's figure, 2,318, that is the gray bar, it seems to be an increase. These are the total sum of the purple bar, and 1,045 cases are withdrawn case, which is a huge increase from last year's figure, 923. A non-pursuable case, 942. Last year, it's 746. So in the middle, we only have 2,221 cases that did not require full investigations because sometimes they cannot be contacted or they choose to withdraw the case. Last year is only 2,002, so it is basically 200 cases here. If you have to notch the figures, that is 309 and 316, which is less fewer than last year. Well, because every now and then there will be slight changes, including the temperature as well as the prediction of temperatures. It's nothing strange with that. I could not see any increased trend. If you read it differently, please kindly let me know. PCC, Mr. Chen Cheng-yan, that is the chairman. He will be sharing with us through percentage. Yes, thank you. I would like to supplement to what Chair Lady and Secretary General has mentioned. I would explain with percentages. Because just looking at figures, it might be quite difficult to comprehend. You asked that we have a 10% of increase in total number of complaints. However, if you look at the figures of withdrawn cases, that is a 20% of increase. So it is easy to compare. 10% is the increase of total allegations. But we have 13% of cases that are withdrawn. We have an increase of 26% for non-pursuable case. That means there are a lot of cases that cannot be carried on. There are many reasons behind. If we compare these figures with the 10% of increase, the cases that warrant full investigations, that is actually a 2% of decrease. Although number of allegations have been increased, but cases that required full investigations, it's actually fewer than that of last year. If you look at all these figures, as mentioned by the chair lady, I believe that we cannot conclude that we have more allegations or fewer allegations because there are different ups and downs among these figures. Thank you. You said that cases of national security will also be taken care of by IPCC. Have you received any complaints or will you take the initiative to investigate? Yes. How many of them? Only a handful of them. Single digits? Yes, there are a handful of them. Can you give us some details? They are still under investigations. It will be unfair for us to disclose details. And I also want to plead to you, when you file a complaint, please leave your personal contacts to prevent not pursuable cases. IPCC and CAPL, but I'm only speaking on behalf of IPCC, we will be sincerely looking into each and every complaint. However, if we don't even know who is the complainant, if we can't locate the complainant, it will be impossible for us to handle the case. Any complaint is something serious. If you complain a police officer has something that is complainable when he or she is carrying out the duty, is something very serious. So please leave your contact. This is the end of the media briefing today. Thank you.